Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Contributing to the annual $150 billion loss in training and development investments is downright demoralizing. So raise your spirits and training ROI by increasing learning transfer with ResultPal. Get over the hump now by going to resultpal.com/fast and getting a $750 performance package for free. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you are going to actually have some really excitement about this particular episode because it's going to challenge what your traditional thought has been about government work and leadership. We have somebody on the show today who is getting things done for the better of her community, as well as her city, state, and really the entire country. Her name is Allison Circle. Allison came from hardworking American stock that has been in the U.S. for 3 centuries. She is proud to come from a family of patriots who have fought in every war since the American Revolution. Allison is a student of history because it lets her keep perspective about what's happening today, especially with a sometimes crazy media, which may lead us to believe that we live in the worst of times. We don't. As the playwright August Wilson said, if you don't know where you came from, how do you know you've earned their sacrifice? Deep in her bones, Allison believes in the quote, "To whom much is given, much is expected." She feels she's been given so much that it would be unconscionable not to build opportunities for others. Every day, Allison goes to work knowing that she has the best job in the world and takes that responsibility seriously and gives it all she can. Allison is the Chief Customer Experience Officer for Columbus Metropolitan Library, and in 2010, her work was recognized with the Library Journal's Library of the Year, and in 2011, she was named a mover and shaker. Allison lives in Columbus, Ohio, 6 blocks from her sister. She believes in the human connection to geography, and living in Ohio, she feels a powerful connection to the impact of the Ice Age. She shares her home with her husband, Ricardo, and has a daughter, Sophia, that attends The Ohio State University. Allison says just thinking about her brings a smile to her face. Allison Circle, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am really ready.
All right. So I've given our listeners a brief introduction about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Well, my current passion is really around design and innovation. I'm responsible for the recreation of a 21st century library here in Columbus, and I have the incredible opportunity and privilege of leading that from a design and innovation standpoint. And it gets me out of bed every day at 4:30, and I'm at work at 6:30 and 7, and it gets me going all day long.
Now, Allison, I know that, for me, I've been part of, different committees, boards, as well as being employed, by certain organizations that it's just so challenging to get things to be done differently. And when you say innovation, there's this whole change management, organizational psychology, all these things associated with it. And gosh, it takes so much knowledge, skill, and energy in order to be able to make an impact. I mean, for you, how are you getting these things done?
Well, Jim, there's one important word that you omitted in that list, and it is patience. Because I'm by nature not a very patient person. My mother used to laugh at me when we would go to the store as children, and I'd be out of the car in the store, bought everything, and she and my sister were just getting out of the car. And I'm like, come on, let's go. As we talk about leadership and getting over the hump, I think the hardest thing for me has been to slow down. The classic case of you're out ahead and you look behind and there's nobody there behind you. I've got to be very careful about that. So one of my struggles is how to balance pace, timelines, the pressures of getting it done with making sure that I bring my people along with me and provide clarity and consistency in what we're trying to do. Because I can talk with my hands as much as possible and ideate all day long. But if I don't have anybody who believes it, who can deliver on it, I got nothing. So I have to be really mindful of that.
Now, I would also, dare to say that you have been, quite custom and familiar with working with, smaller groups. And when you actually had taken on this particular role, my assumption is that kind of changed, and you also had several constituents that you actually had to now be mindful of, and try to get not just behind you, but also to support you and push you forward. If you were to think about all of those things that you've been able to touch, which one really presented you with the most humps to get over?
Oh, I think I am leading an institution that is 137 years old. I am the first person to lead the librarians who is not a librarian. And so you take this iconic, traditional, I guess I would not say traditional, because librarians are also always trying to think ahead, but it's a profession. And to place someone atop that profession who doesn't have that expertise is a challenge. It's a challenge to sell the value that I bring. It's a challenge to win people's confidence. And my hoping that they have that confidence is not what's going to make it happen. And so I've had to lead with great humility and listening, problem solving for people, because that's what I can do for them. I can't tell them how to be a better librarian. I have direct reports who oversee them who are all professional librarians, and they do a masterful job. So it's really this marriage of their skills with my design, creativity, execution ability, problem solving ability that has really made this work. Because if I didn't have a great team underneath me, I wouldn't have the credibility. So that's been one of the biggest times. Also, I was an internal hire, and I had been the marketing director before. So I had come in at a time when marketing was done by librarians. And so I came in bringing a professional expertise in a discipline, and that was hard for people. And as I must say, overall, in my tenure here at this organization has been very patient with me, as I have had to learn how to adapt myself to the culture instead of expecting the culture to adapt to me. That makes sense. I came from a global brand agency where the pace was, as you might expect, relentless, and the expectations were enormous, and we had to deliver to the bottom line. And then coming into an organization that is very democratic, everybody feels right to a voice, and I didn't know that, and that was a big learning development for myself.
Well, definitely it sounds, there's many things as you were talking that kind of stood out to me, and that whole adaptability, flexibility, collaborative aspects. Being able to slow down in order to be able to speed up. And I think, gosh, one of the things that we focus on the show are leadership quotes, because I am certain as you were going through all of, what you've gone through to start really seeing some success, it required a whole lot of that energy that you, of course, are blessed with to have naturally, but, you still needed that inspiration. Is there a quote or two that kind of stands out for you that gives you that extra jolt of energy?
Well, I was thinking about that question, and I'm going to answer it in two different ways. One is really what less than a quote is standing on the foundation of really great role models that my parents provided for me, and to keep a clear-sighted vision on what's important, to get myself out of the way, and to really listen at what's going on. But I was thinking about something that a quote that I found really inspiring that I just read. I'm a big student of the creative process. So I love reading about composers and artists and writers. And I was just reading a book by John Lahr, who is Bert Lahr's son, who was the Cowardly Lion in Wizard of Oz. And John Lahr was a theater critic for The New Yorker for 25 years. And one of my favorite playwrights is August Wilson, who wrote this magisterial cycle of the African-American life through the decades from the last century. And he was talking about writing a play and saying, oh, I just got to make this play better. But how am I going to do that? And he said to himself, I can always make it worse. Why can't I make it better? And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that we hold ourselves back from making it better because we can't think we can do that? But we sure do think we can make it worse. So why couldn't we think we could make it better? So I think that level of optimism and that can-do spirit of I can plow through and I can figure it out, that's what really kind of is that quote that drives me forward.
Well, I mean, for me, there's two things that stood out when you were explaining it. And first of all, thanks for sharing it. Is that mindset? We talk a lot about mindset and getting your mind right. And then choice. Oftentimes we make the choice on what you were just talking about, whether or not our choice is to focus in on, well, I can't do that, or more so, how can I do that?
Well, one of the things we're working on here as part of a customer experience strategy is how do we make the answer yes? Okay, if we think this is the right thing to do, how do we make it happen instead of, oh man, I can't do that and I can't do that. We're going to have, okay, that's all true, but let's start from the standpoint that the answer is yes. Now let's backfill and figure out how to get there.
It's funny, thinking about the other side of that, right, is that oftentimes, we rear the ugly head of the word policy.
Yeah.
It's too easy to fall back on policy. And I'll be transparent. I actually was removed as a customer because somebody threw out the word policy. And for me, I said, well, if that's what you're going to fall back on, then there's nothing more to talk about.
Right. Well, and here's my example. We have, I was talking to one of our managers, a great manager, lovely person, positive. I'm standing there and a customer comes in and she has a book and she said, hey, I drove down here today. I checked out this book. I already had the book. I lost the book that I checked out. I haven't even opened the book that I bought because I forgot I bought it. Can I give this to you? And that's how the first word out of that manager's mouth was no. And I thought, gosh, this lady drove down here. How about, gosh, thank you so much. Let's make this right for you. I mean, it's that subtlety of how do you make the experience a yes instead of how to automatically go to no because of what you just said, that whole idea. Well, the policy is I can't do that, but at least act like the policy is not between my interaction with you and me.
That's a great point. And as you were even talking, I started reminding myself of just an interaction I had with my 12-year-old daughter, and along those same lines as, the first response was no, and then she was giving me, really something that would kind of aligned with what I was saying. I'm like, well, why did you say no to begin with? It's a habit. It's just merely a habit. And I think we have to really be mindful of that and say, okay, that is not the habit that's going to permit or allow or enable, us to be able to find a way to get to yes.
Well, and sort of more on that too is, you think about a quote. I mean, there's so many, and that a perfect one is seek first to understand. Okay, what are you trying to tell me? And I try to always get it when people ask me questions or say something, what are they really telling me? And trying to understand what is driving the question. Because, I do this all the time. You probably do this where you say, well, do you know when such and such is? Instead of saying, I need to do X and I'm going to need Y for that. Does that jive with what the question is I just asked? We're not very direct and clear on how we get the information that we need. And I work really hard at trying to be clear and concise about what I'm asking of people.
That's a very good point. There's so many things that I am sure contributed to you being able to not only essentially fill the job responsibilities and the role that you have right now, but then also thrive at it because you have received a lot of recognition for the accomplishments that the library system has had. And I know, as you just explained, that it's been a collaborative effort and a team effort. And really, I mean, you're kind of the instigator in regards to all of that. But was there a hump, that really, helped to meet the challenges that you have today and also that you're going to meet tomorrow and, kind of like defined, a better path for you? Can you share that story with us?
We had organizational climate survey a couple of years ago, and it was devastating, honestly. It was not positive about upper management. We are stretched really thin right now, and I had to understand that I can be as busy as I think I need to do, but because of who we are, our frontline people really need to see and touch me as I embody this role. It's not me, Allison Circle, but it's this role. And there needs to be much greater touching. And I can be as impatient with that as I want. It's not going away. And I think the thing I've had to learn as a leader, I'm a middle child, so I'm pretty much about making everybody happy. But I have to realize that I've got to learn to balance what I have to get done and what people are asking of me. And it kind of gets back to that same thing. What are people really asking me? And if our staff keeps saying, we need you to come out and talk to us, I have to get over myself and realize I may have this enormous to-do list over here, but if I am not touching people in the way they need to be touched, it's going to undermine my success. And I'm also an extremely independent person. The thing I've had to learn the hardest is I can't be independent and be successful. I mean, that's actually a theme through all the things I've talked to you about here is I can't just go off and do something. And like anybody who's in the kind of role I am, we could probably do it and get it done in half the time it even takes to explain it to somebody. But you just have to understand the higher up you go, the less independent you can be.
Well, that's a really good point. And I would dare to say, if you even peel that back a little bit, is that our inability to do such that can permit us from moving up.
That's exactly right. And it's just as in looking at the questions you had given me ahead of time and reflecting on my journey to this role, it has been less myself as this independent force and moving and really kind of the only way I can think about it, it's less vertical and more horizontal. That I've had to flatten out myself in terms of how I go about doing things instead of this vertical, I'm a soldier in the field and I'm going off and doing it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It absolutely does. Now, if you were to talk about, getting over that hump and all of the learnings that you've had in order to be able to, affect and impact, that survey result, is if you were to give our Fast Leader Legion, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Here's what I struggle with every day. If I'm frustrated by what somebody is doing or not doing, what am I doing to contribute to that? It's not what is that person doing wrong? Where have I lacked clarity? Where have I not held that person accountable? As a leader, that is your responsibility. I was on the drive yesterday and talking to my management consultant, also known as my husband, and I was frustrated about something. And he's always so matter of fact about it. He said it's people, process, and tools. So do the people understand what is expected of them? Well, yeah, sure they do. Blah, blah, blah. He said, but has it been written down, documented? Do they understand it? Do you know they understand it? So you got to start there. So to me, the advice is, what are you doing to contribute to the lack of performance in your people? Because that's where it comes from.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I think we can also carry that into our personal lives as well, right?
No, I'm always right.
So I know for you, when you start talking about this energy, when you start talking about the recognition that you all have been receiving, as part of the work that you've been doing and the transition and the ideation and the innovation. And I mean, so many things that, are going on for you and all the things that you have on your plate. If you were to talk about, goals that you have for the future, what would they be?
My professional goal is that we deliver extraordinary opportunities for the people in my community. I am so gratified that we have our first library we built was in a very depressed neighborhood. There had been no new development in that area in a generation. We had no children. We had people with their head down, no interaction. Today, we have meeting rooms, and the meeting room usage has gone up 350%. Our children flood the space. Our circulation of children's book is our top category. We have 160% increase in circulation among kids' books. So what that's saying to me is we're giving that community hope, that community feels people care about them, that they're valued, and we're giving them a path to success. As we do these other buildings, again, amping that up and really delivering opportunity to this community. On a personal level, I'd say it's to continue to fuel what I have is kind of an insatiable need for creativity, design, and innovation. And that's always, to me, expressed through language, art, music, design, and how can we constantly reinvent that?
Well, and the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. Developing your company's talent and leadership pipeline can be an overwhelming task, but your burden is over. With ResultPal, you can use the power of practice to develop more leaders faster. Move onward and upward by going to resultpal.com/fast and getting a $750 performance package for free. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Allison, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Allison Circle, are you ready to hoe down?
Yeehaw, ready to hoe down.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Too much work to do. I've got to learn to prioritize better.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Lead with your ears, not with your mouth.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I'm indefatigable.
Say that one more time.
I'm indefatigable. I have so much energy, and I get up in the morning. I work 12 to 14-hour days. I give it my all. I'm positive, happy, and in the end, I'm a well-adjusted person. What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life? I think it's really important to write everything down, and I think I'm a big believer that words really matter. Choosing the right words to lead make all the difference.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? Doesn't have to be a business book.
I'll tell you what I just finished, which last night I read Building Art, which is the biography of Frank Gehry. The reason I suggest that is it talks about constantly looking at things with a different eye and figuring out how to solve problems in an imaginative way.
I think that's a great choice. Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Allison Circle. Okay, Allison, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25. And you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you. But you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I would say stop talking. I think as leaders, we talk too much. And even in our personal lives, we talk too much. We need to listen more and be more in the moment and really hear what people are telling us.
Allison, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
I would love to. I'd love to hear from anyone about this. And thank you again for having me today. My email address is super simple. It's a circle, ACIRCLE at columbuslibrary.org. A circle at columbuslibrary.org.
Allison Circle, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.